Now, I am going to share some slides, and we'll cover the logistics and stuff first, I think, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
So, do all of our welcomes and all that. There we go. Nice. All right, welcome everybody. Hopefully you can hear and see us, and I'll do some introductions shortly. But thank you to those who have logged in and to Moodle and done a little bit of an introduction already. It's lovely to at least feel we're getting to know you, even though we're not in the same room. But you're here for the Safe System Assessment course. So if you've logged into the wrong meeting, you better log out. But Safe System Assessments, and we've been running this for New Zealand groups now for, this is about our fourth group, Kathy, maybe?
Yes.
And just exceptional. We say every time the New Zealanders are absolutely the best. Kathy and I are packing our bags, and as soon as we're allowed in, we are coming and moving in because you're the best. And that's for a number of reasons. Commitment to road safety is exceptional, and that's a wonderful platform. But the interaction, the assignments, the work, the genuine desire to get a real understanding of safe system assessments is just wonderful. But let's go logistics. Right, that other person on the screen there, that's Kathy DeCoris. Kathy's our training manager at Safe System Solutions, and Kathy is your go-to person if anything goes wrong in the course. So that's if the tech fails, if you can't make a session, you're having issues with getting your assignment in, or Moodle, or all of those sorts of things, have a chat with Kathy. If it's technical content, Kathy's probably pretty good at it, but I tend to cover off most of that. Now, Kathy, let's explain a little bit about the chat function. So you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're predominantly going to use the chat function to interact throughout the sessions. So if you have questions or comments, type them in at any stage throughout the sessions that we have, and we'll pause along the way and I'll get those questions to Ken or comments to Ken at the time. You can use the drop down and type to all panelists, which will mean Ken and I will see those. So if you want to keep something a little bit, anonymous or secret, you can do that. But if you want to share it with the whole group, you just change it to all panelists and attendees, and you can see what everyone is saying. You can also use the Q&A function. So if you want to be really anonymous, you can ask a question anonymously there as well. So that's in the Q&A function. And if you would like to talk, we can unmute you, and you would do that by raising your hand, not at your computer behind your screen, but next to your name, there's a little raise your hand function. And we can unmute you at that stage. If you have significant issues and you can't hear, or it's being a little bit jumpy or those sorts of things, best thing to do is to shut down and restart. Just the IT support 101 there. Shut down and restart, and that fixes most problems. Otherwise, you have got the PDFs on your memory stick, and you've also got them in Moodle as well.
And we record the session, so if things go absolutely pear-shaped, you will be able to just watch the pre-recorded session, or the recorded session, I should say. Kathy's contact details there. Get in contact with her at any time. Thanks, Kathy. And this is me, without moustache. And I am the principal engineer at Safe System Solutions, and my name is Ken Beer. For those I haven't met, good to meet you. And I've put a QR code there to my LinkedIn. And the reason I do that is the road safety conversation is just ongoing, and we're all continuing to learn, and people are trying new things. And I think it's important we share that information, share what works, share what doesn't work, and really continue that conversation. I like that platform to do that conversation. So please just connect with me, and we can continue to chat. Safe System Solutions puts out a lot of things we call safe system snippets, which are just bits of information, little bits of information on different topics, road safety topics, and trying to continue the professional development across industry and dispel a few myths and rumours and the like. So yeah, connect. Now I'm also, my contact details are there. If you have any questions about the content of the course or need technical help with your assignments or anything like that. So get in contact. So this is Moodle. Moodle is our learning management system. Kathy, do you want to explain what we're doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone's done a great job jumping in there and introducing yourself. Lovely to see so much varied knowledge and experience within the group. That's where we'll be housing everything again. So copies of the presentation notes, the recordings after each session. That's where I'll put the recording in each little module there. And there will be a quiz, a short multiple choice quiz at the end of each session, approximately 10 questions or so, should take you no more than minutes. And so you'll do that quiz at the end of each of our live sessions. Any other resources that Ken might bring up or other people might want to share as well, I'll pop in there as well. So it's kind of your one place for everything.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathy.
If you have any concerns or can't navigate through it or something like that, just send me an email.
Right. Okay. So there's a couple of other little things that go on during the course just to keep you engaged. One of them is our little friend here, Wally the Wombat. Wally the Wombat warning sign. And you have to keep an eye out for Wally the Wombat warning signs throughout the modules. And one of your quiz questions is, how many times did Wally appear in today's module? So Wally will just appear on the screen just like that, sometimes smaller, and you just keep a track of that. So you ready for that? That's not one. Your Wally count at the moment is 0. So that's not one of your official Wallies. It's just a demonstration Wally. And so you'll submit that in Moodle as part of the quiz. Now, we like to give out prizes, Kathy, as well, don't we? Some prizes for potentially Wally-related things, but lots of prizes as we go. So as I ask different questions of you, and the first one maybe to type in the correct answer into the chat, which is going to win a prize. Sometimes I give out prizes if I really like the question. And you can see Kathy's there in the prize bit. And here's our first prize. What is it? Socks. Oh, that'll keep you warm in Invercargill. Some crayfish socks. Are they crayfish, crab socks? Crayfish socks. Excellent. Yep. Crayfish socks. Fantastic. Look at that. So there's an example of what you could win. And you're probably saying, how on earth are these Victorians going to get socks to me in Invercargill? And the answer is that at the end of the course, if you successfully complete everything and pass the course, you'll get an electronic copy of your certificate, but you'll also get a hard copy of the certificate in the post, plus any prizes that you've won along the way will come along with your certificate. And hopefully some of you have received a little pack, a little warm-up pack in the post. Now, if you haven't received that yet, it's probably on its way, so don't worry. But and there's nothing in there that you need for the content of the course straight away. But it's just a little something to warm you up, give you a little sustenance for the morning. So enjoy. Okay, and I did mention there you've got to pass this course. This isn't a just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride course. Hopefully you will enjoy the ride, but we are going to make you do some things. And we have a benchmark of competency, and we don't hide from that. We want to ensure that people that complete our course can go out there and do safe system assessments with a level of competency. There will be a lot of learning after you've finished the course and continuing doing them. However, our benchmark is set actually at an 80%, but we'll talk about that in a second. your requirements to pass the course. You've got to attend 4 out of the 5 live webinars, just like this. Now, you can view that one you miss, and that's an acknowledgement. We understand life is chaotic and they're just maybe unmovable things. So you've got that one there. Now, if for some reason it's absolutely impossible to make another one or something like that, talk to Kathy, have a chat with Kathy. Satisfactory completion of all the set tasks, and we'll set those tasks. And the pass mark is 80% for all assignments, quizzes, and your safe system assessment that you do at the end of the course. Now, don't get too freaked out about that. It sounds like a high mark and sounds scary, but you have up to 3 attempts at everything and one-on-one coaching available. So we are here to support you, to get you up to that level of competency, to get you to understand the little intricacies of safe system assessments and the like. And so that's, that's our proof that we are succeeding in this course, is to ensure that all of you pass. And I will make that happen. And I won't make it happen anyway, except for making you learn and understand these little bits about safe system assessment that ensure you get those marks. Okay. Any questions about the logistics, the management, the running of the course? You can chat. If you really wanted to talk, you just put your hand up and then we would give you the ability to unmute yourself. There is no ability for you to turn your camera on at any point, or us turn your camera on for that matter. So you can happily do this course in your pajamas. That's fine.
No questions at the moment, Ken, so we might get stuck into it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I'll acknowledge the traditional owners of the different lands on which we're running this training. Pay my respects to elders past and present. And thank you to Waka Katahi for supporting this venture, and a lot of great commitment to improving road safety across New Zealand. And it's exciting to be on the journey. And as I said earlier, so many passionate people wanting to make this happen. So let's get stuck into some content and just write your questions, your comments in the chat as I go. Don't wait until we pause because I might just keep moving on. But what Kathy will do is stop me at different points and feed me different questions. So let's get into it. The first module we're doing, today's module, is all about sort of getting an understanding of the principles and elements of the safe system. Now, I know a lot of you are very, very experienced in this, and that's great. Some of you probably it's a little newer to you. So we will just cover that off to ensure everybody's on the same page, same platform there. Then we're going to get into understanding some kinetic energy thresholds for different crash types, the difference between the traditional approach to road safety and where we're trying to go with the safe system approach. A bit about best practice in behavioural change and vehicle safety interventions. And then we jump into speed and speed management. The next module is all about sort of the infrastructure and what we can build. But this sets us a really great platform to do safe system assessments in looking broadly and holistically at the system. So we'll jump into it. I'll help you out on this first one. Your Wally count now is 1. All right. But no more help from now on with Wallies. Okay, Road to Zero is New Zealand's road safety strategy 2020 to 2030. Now, I know you all have a copy of this next to your bed and you read it every night. But for those who don't, it's worth picking up and having a flick through, because it's actually a really world-class document for a number of reasons. The approach being taken, the research, evidence, and modelling behind it, and a few of the interventions are quite world-leading. You've got some wonderful road safety experts in New Zealand who are sort of helping shape these things. And then there's a real acknowledgement of the operational challenges that take place at every level there, from the national level, the engineers out there on the arterial network trying to upgrade things, upgrade highways and the like, local government to the local roads and the challenges associated with that, the community challenges that are faced. So really, really good document. And I've just highlighted one little section here that's relevant to our safe system assessments and the safe system. But here it's the percentage of people who have completed an approved safe system training course and shown improved understanding of the safe system. That's a good one. And then the percentage of infrastructure projects that have been the subject of a road safety audit and or a safe system assessment. So some of you are road safety auditors, and I know that because some of you I have trained as road safety auditors, and you're wonderful at that. Safe system assessment is a different beast. It's similar. It's a different way of presenting things, slightly different lens put on things, and looking at some other areas of road safety beyond just what a road safety audit would look at. But there you go. It's there in black and white in your strategy. It's committed, and you're part of this journey. You're part of the people who will make this happen. The safe system. Okay, we're here to talk about the safe system, and we'll get to a methodology to assess things in their alignment with safe system principles. But I want to take you back in time, all the way back to the first time that the safe system was being committed to at a national level. So this is in Australia and New Zealand. There was a time when we were committing to the implementation of this idea, this approach, this philosophy called the safe system. And this is the diagram of the time back then. I'm going to give a prize out, Kathy, for the person who can guess the year when national governments in Australia and New Zealand committed to the implementation of the safe system, or saying the safe system is the approach we are now going to adopt for the implementation of our road safety initiatives. So just have a guess in the chat. Just chuck in anything, any year into the chat, and if somebody gets it, we will give you a prize. And if nobody gets it, we'll go closest. It's like that game at the local fair where you have to count the jelly beans.
No one's got it just yet. Lots of guesses coming in.
Oh, people are bouncing just around it though, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Good guesses. All right, I think you give it to somebody who was closest earlier on there, Kathy, to keep us moving along. People are now getting.
It's going to go to two people in that case.
Two people.
Either side. S. Morris had 2003.
Yeah.
And B. Huxley had 2005.
And it was 2004, so you're right. So what's that? One sock each, Kathy? Is that the...
Yeah, good
one. Yes. No, there you go. Easy as that to win a prize. But 2004, isn't that interesting? It's quite a long time ago, isn't it? When we think about things, and that was when we all sort of committed to this. Nationally in New Zealand, Colin Brodie and the like. For those who know Colin, were in the room, and your ministers and the like, and everybody was, yep, okay, this is the way to go. This is the way we're going to do it, the safe system. So it's been around a while. It's taken us a long time to really get to implementation stage. And I was in the Victorian government at the time, and we were sort of discussing this idea. And it was really interesting when we initially came up with the safe system approach. It was very much based on the Swedish approach, or Scandinavian approach, Vision Zero approach, sustainable safety approach. And it took that, and then we debated it nationally in Australia and at an Austroads level and the like. And the diagram originally was just in the circle here, okay? And it was this middle thing, and don't worry if you can't read it, you're watching on your phone or something. But it says human tolerance to physical force. So how much force the body can handle. And then it was to say we were going to set a system around this to manage forces within those tolerable levels. And we were going to do that through the vehicles, the roads and the roadsides, and the speeds. End of system. Right? That was it. That was our system. And then, quite a number of people said, hang on, what about the road users, the drivers, the riders, the walkers? What about them? And there was a bit of debate there. And then there was this alert and compliant road users put as an overarching sort of square around the system. And quite a number of us thought that that was a fail, that we had just lost a lot of the important part of the safe system. And the reason for that is that it's this really easy then way to say, well, they weren't alert and compliant or compliant. Thus, we had death and serious injury. And they need to be alert and compliant. They need to follow the rules. They need to, be alert the whole time. They need to not fall asleep. They need to not use their mobile phone. They need to not speed. They need to not, and the list goes on of what they need to not do. And you sort of then start blaming. And as a result of that, you don't really look for major system change initiatives. Now, it gets complicated, really, doesn't it? Because we don't want to encourage non-compliant or inattention or these sorts of things. But what we need to do is acknowledge that we are building and managing a system that humans are using. Now, if you know any humans, you'll know that they are fallible. They make mistakes. In fact, I've made many mistakes already this morning. Luckily, none of them have resulted in death or serious injury that I am aware of. But we make lots and lots of mistakes all the time as humans. And that's how we learn and we change. And part of it's in our DNA and risk-taking. And as we age, humans are these complex beasts that make mistakes. So we need to start designing, managing, and operating a system that acknowledges that. So you're not going to get alert and compliant road users all the time. But what you need to do is use these things to mean that when they're not alert and they're not compliant, it doesn't result in death and serious injury. Either it stops them moving, or it manages energy within that, stops them, when I say stops them moving, stops them being able to get out there in a dangerous situation. Anyway, so back then there was lots of feeders into the system, and I won't go into that. But then lots of diagrams started coming out, lots of different ones. You'll notice that the alert and compliant road users got removed in these, and this is the one that New Zealand is using currently, and it's good. I really like it. Lots of great aspects to it. A decent amount of words there, but they're very good words for a number of reasons. And these are some of the key principles of the system there that you're managing. And you've got strengthening all parts of the transport system, which is a great acknowledgement that it's not one element alone that is going to get us to this aspiration we have of no deaths or serious injuries on the transport network. And it is an aspiration there, that zero. It's what we're aiming for. New Zealand's doing some wonderful modelling to work out when that, what you would need to do to make that happen by 2050. Yes, significant system changes in order to make that happen. And that's a debate that we can possibly have, which is, is that a reality? How do you deal with this? But I don't think anybody will disagree that we need to get a major reduction in what your current death and serious injuries are as quickly as we possibly can. And so I won't get into too much debate about zero as a possibility, but we can have a bit of a chat about that. I just love the wording as well that New Zealanders use. So thoughtful. We design for human vulnerability. Okay, so understand that humans are a fragile object. I mean, we can take some force, but we will break. And you're going to design for that. We have a shared responsibility for improving safety. So this is not resting on any one person's shoulders or one industry's shoulders. It's across the board. Our actions are grounded in evidence and evaluated. Beautiful. So important in road safety that we do evidence-based initiatives. And why so important in road safety? Well, because everybody's got an opinion. And everybody, as drivers, as walkers, as bike riders, everybody believes they understand what the issues are and how to solve them. And if you're anything like me, all you need to do at a barbecue or something like that, or down at the pub, and say, oh, I work in road safety, if you've got any ideas. And there is your conversation for the next, well, as long as you're willing to stay, because people are really passionate about this and they are immersed in this day to day as they travel, and they've got ideas. But the thing is that we can't use personal experience to make holistic system-wide decisions. We need to use evidence, and we need to evaluate anything that's done to ensure that we are doing things that actually work. So, road safety actions that support health, well-being, and livable places. So that's a little link into the sort of movement and place philosophy. And it shows that road safety and livability and well-being and health are just interconnected. And you can get some wonderful, wonderful benefits across all of those areas by changing a few things. So we make safety a critical decision-making priority. So safety is our paramount decision-making priority. And I'll get back to that. But when you have a choice between moving traffic a little bit faster and the health and safety of your community, you're going to have to prioritize safety there, move traffic and the like as fast as we can within that envelope. And we promote good choices, but plan for mistakes. And I think if it had been worded like that in that initial safe system diagram, I think everybody would have been quite happy. So again, some wonderful wording of that, because we do want to promote good choices and try to provide a system that helps people not make mistakes and helps people to be alert and compliant. But we plan for them not being alert, not being compliant and making mistakes. And there's a number of sort of ways that we're going to achieve this. And it's nicely laid out here. Vehicles, work-related road safety, the road users themselves and choices and influence we have there, the management of the system as a whole, and the infrastructure improvements and speed management. So that's your safe system in New Zealand, and I'd say from the rough thing that was produced back in 2004 to now, this is a really elegant, this is a well thought through system, and it's put together beautifully. So it's exciting that New Zealand's venturing in with this as your representation of the safe system. I'm going to get out of transport for a while. I'm going to jump to another industry, but I'll pause there and see if any questions have come in at this stage.
We're good at this stage, Ken, but if you do have questions or comments, please just feel free to type them in at any stage.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, let's get out of transport. Let's go into widget production. So, you know, widgets, I don't know what a widget is. It's just a thing that somebody tell me what a widget is. I'll give a prize to somebody who can tell me what a widget is. It's a general term for something, a something. So it's being produced. We're producing these widgets in a factory, right? But this is a long time ago. And the safety culture back in this time is what we would refer to as a pathological safety culture. Now, a pathological safety culture is where it's up to everybody to protect themselves the best they can. You're told it's dangerous in the widget factory, and you know, watch out for that machine. Don't put your arm in there. Don't go past this area, and you know it's really dangerous in here. This is your job, so you just make sure you follow those rules, and you know, protect yourself. Safety is your responsibility. And the system is actually fairly open. It was quite open. They used to get people in to clean the machines, get kids in to clean the machines. People used to go out and lunch, you know, drink lots of pints of ale and come back in and continue their work. And we saw lots of death and serious injury. We saw lots of arms being ripped off. We had kids crushed. We had people crushed in the machines. We had death. And it was sort of just part of producing widgets. If you had a factory, people were going to die in there. That was sort of how it was seen. It's the price that's paid to produce widgets. So then at a point, it sort of elevates in safety culture, and it goes up to what we call a reactive safety culture, which is where these issues, the machines where they're ripping arms off or crushing people, are sort of identified, and then changes are made to stop this happening. The owners of the factories didn't want people to be killed or seriously injured, and obviously the families are very very hurt and touched by this. So they're going about trying to fix these, and they put a guard on a machine, or they add some more no-go areas. They do some more training to people before they use a machine. They give everybody a stick so that they, have to push things into the machine with a stick instead of their arm. So you're just trying, addressing these point by point around your factory as they emerge. Then you elevate up from that, and it goes into what we call the calculating safety culture. And this is where the economists usually come into play. And they come into the factory and they go, "Ooh, I'll analyze this factory," and okay, then you've got an issue there, and you're paying out quite a bit of money for lost widget production, productivity, for you've got to pay the families out for people that have been killed and the like, and you get fined a bit for these different things. So actually, if you were to invest £30,000 in this factory, you could save yourself £90,000 over the next 5 years. And I've come up with this thing called a benefit cost ratio. Notice I was doing it in pounds because this was back in the day when pounds were used. A benefit cost ratio of 3. So every pound you invest, you'll get £3 in return it's good. It's good investment to invest in safety. And the factory owner, yeah, okay, that sounds good there, and then you go and fix it. Then you elevate it up one notch from that. And this is where we're into what we call a proactive safety culture, which says safety must be this very, very high level. And we will produce as many widgets as we possibly can up to that safety level. And if we go drop under that safety level, widget production will stop until we get back to that safety level. And this is where really factories have generally gone in the developed world. And we are in a proactive safety culture. And nobody will bat an eyelid if a factory gets shut down for safety issues. I mean, obviously the people who are running the factory will quickly rectify any risks that have been identified, but it'll stop. Nobody's saying, oh, this is an impingement on my freedom and, blah, 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 all of that usual sort of stuff we hear when we try to implement risk reduction measures on the road network. Now, it's a different system. I mean, people will say this is a closed system and very regulated and the like. But there was a day when it was a very open system. The last thing you have in the safety culture ladder is really the idea that we need to continually invest once we have a proactive safety culture to maintain that safety culture. It doesn't just happen and then you walk away and do nothing. There's a lot of effort in continuing to maintain that. Now, of course, you've now made an analogy onto the road network and the thinking, oh, I wonder where we sit on the road network. Well, I dare say it's not that the road network sits in one particular one. There's elements of the road system that I would say definitely pathological. We've got bits of proactive stuff, and then there's a lot of calculating and a lot of reactive. So in there. So yeah, lots of examples of that stuff. We certainly say, hey, this is a really dangerous thing. Here's your license. Safety is your responsibility. Out you go. We definitely get out there and we fix those problem areas as we identify them. There's a lot of calculating of the benefit cost ratio and, KSI saved per dollar spent and all that sort of investment analysis. There are some really nice proactive things happening, continuous barrier systems, not waiting for, the crash clusters and people leaving the road and the like, but saying, we're building a new road here. We know people are going to leave it. We're not going to wait and see where they leave it. We're just going to continue to, make the whole thing safe. So any comments or questions on that, Kathy?
No, Ken, all good. We've got some widget responses that have come in though. Anyway, there's one I'll read out. Widget, wombats in danger, getting experience transformation.
I love it. Prize there, by the way.
Yes. But there is a question from earlier. You mentioned that everything was based on evidence. Who is collecting, curating, evaluating, and distributing the evidence?
Wow. Amazing question. So there's, quite a number of agencies around the world who are dedicated to sort of researching, evaluating road safety. The national or state in Australia agencies do a fair bit of that. Austroads is a great platform for trying to disseminate some of the research and direct research. But so the things that I would say, Austroads takes an ownership of that, and Austroads is really just a collection of state and New Zealand, the National Road Agency, so that they can invest collectively in research and production of guides and the like, and try to disseminate that. Wakatahi does a lot of that as well. And we see pockets of local government coming up with things, because it doesn't need to be like these big, $1 million research projects. You can try something in your local area. get it evaluated in a quick, cost-effective manner, and then share that information. And that's why I was mentioning things like LinkedIn. Like, as a company, we aim to sort of disseminate a lot of good research. We do research as well, but not a huge amount of it. But we, researchers about, get that information out there, share it. And so there's lots of people trying to do that, but I think it's an area that we need to just ramp up significantly so everybody's onto it. But New Zealand's doing a good job in terms of these sorts of initiatives, trying to get people engaged, trying to activate lots of safety knowledge sharing, and so a fair bit happening. Okay. So there's a few of these little things that come up, quizzes. Now, these are not ones that you are marked on. The only one that you're marked on is the one at the end that you do in your own time based on the content we cover. These ones are just for interaction and making sure you're there. Which of the following? So there's two questions here. I think it's just the two questions. One of them you have the answer to already in what I've been saying, and one you don't. Although I have asked a few of you the second one in other courses, but which of the following, so the first one is, which of the following is not a key principle of the safe system? So I've sort of discussed this. I haven't done it sort of, very, very clearly, but the purpose of this is to see if you sort of understand that concept. And so you should be able to just vote on it. If the poll isn't coming up, let us know in the chat or the Q&A, and Kathy can explain. Occasionally somebody's firewall decides to block these sorts of things, but I think we're pretty good in New Zealand.
It's looking good. And a comment just came through as well, Ken, saying that I remember when our local political reps used to talk from the pathological perspective about 10 years ago. We are moving in the right direction.
That's awesome. And gee, political leaders are interesting, aren't they? And I mean, they're brilliant in terms of the way they've gathered public and support and got their votes and all of that. But they could come from any industry with any mindset and bring with them any baggage that they have. And so I used to have to brief the motor road safety ministers of my state that would come in on different topics, and one of them I used to have to brief the ministers on was speed. So you get a new minister that comes in, and they're I don't know, farmer from a regional area or something, and they've all of a sudden got this sort of portfolio that includes speed and speed management, speed limits across the state. And of course, they come in with their ideas because they've been driving the network for a long time, and they come with ideas. So it is challenging. Anyway, that's a discussion for probably next time I'm in New Zealand and we catch up and we can have a long chat about it over a meal or something. Okay, let's have a look here. Which of the following is not a key principle of the safe system? So aim for no mistakes on the road. So that's the one. And most of you are onto that. And again, we don't know who got it wrong, so don't get worried if you didn't quite get that one. But we're not aiming for no mistakes on the road because we know we've got humans in this system, and they're going to make mistakes, right? What we want to do is minimize and manage. So the next one, Usain Bolt, fastest human, running his world record 100-meter sprint, and crossed that finish line 44 kilometers an hour. Oh my gosh, everybody, the majority of people actually got that one. Maybe you Googled it, good on you. 44 kilometers an hour, that's Usain Bolt's running speed. Why am I asking this? Why am I asking this in a safe system assessment course? Well, I want you to imagine that we park a Toyota Camry at the end of Usain Bolt's lane, and he's running down there and 44 kilometers per hour, and bang, hits that Toyota Camry, goes over the bonnet, bangs his head on the vehicle. Actually, let's say it was a 2015 Toyota Camry. Prize for the person that can tell me on the outside of the car where the most friendly place for Usain Bolt to hit his head would be. As I keep moving on, have a guess at that. A prize for the person who can tell me that. So, will Usain Bolt survive when he smashes into that car at 44 kilometers per hour? Well, the answer is yes, probably. In fact, humans have evolved to run into solid stuff off the pace of our own legs. If we planted a massive tree at the end of Usain Bolt's lane, he came running down there at 44 kilometers per hour, smacks into that tree, but he's going to hurt himself. But again, it is most likely that he will recover to lead a normal, healthy life. He might break some ribs, break his nose, big cuts, but humans evolved to run into solid stuff off their own pace on the horizontal plane. So here's a curve that shows passenger vehicles striking pedestrians at the collision speed, right? Not the speed limit. Don't get that out of your mind. This is just speed of collision, and this is fatality probability, the chance that the random human that is struck in across society will be killed. And we see here sort of 10, 20, even 30 kilometers per hour. It's highly likely that the human will survive. Up here at 60, 70, 80 kilometers per hour, it's highly likely that the human will be killed. You can see here around this 30 kilometers per hour is this exponential kick up. It gets really bad really fast, like as in small changes in speed get really bad after that. Now there's the great man himself. He comes in up the curve. He's the Hulk of a human. He's got a stature that can handle a lot more force than us mere mortals. And there's actually a decent correlation. The stronger you are to physical force, the faster you can run. It's general correlation, obviously. There's things not to that, but the healthier you are. Old people, frail people can't run as fast, can't withstand those forces. So random little thing that I like to hypothesize with designers often in urban areas, an activity area, say, well, what do you think the average maximum running what is maximum running speed of our community through here? So yeah, that's a good design speed. Let's try and get every speed under that. And then we sort of have a ponder of that. So the types of forces that we are designed to handle, nice little video here. Hopefully this streams for you. There we go. Play it again. Now, we can have a bit of a laugh at that one and go, ooh, but we know that those are within tolerable sort of force thresholds of humans. In fact, he recovers. He broke a few ribs, but came back later the next year, won the gold medal in the Olympics. So that's what we can handle. Now I'm going to show you this for a couple more crash types, and then I'm going to take questions and comments. Because we have this data and information for a right angle crash between two passenger vehicles. Okay? And the speed down here is of this vehicle, which we would call the bullet vehicle. Okay? The bullet vehicle is the one that does the damage in a crash. So you'll identify your bullet vehicle in crashes, and the speed of the bullet vehicle is down there, and then the fatality probability of the target vehicle occupant. So the target vehicle occupant here, and they will be struck, and it's driver's side there, being struck, and this is at a right angle. And we see there that around the 30, 40, 50 kilometre per hour mark is fairly survivable. Up around the 80, 90, 100, it's very likely that there would be death for the driver of this vehicle or passenger side if struck passenger side at that right angle. And head-on crashes, we see there that it's around the 50, 60, 70, very likely to survive. And up around the 100 plus, very likely to be killed. And that is the speed of each vehicle, which is a bullet vehicle and a target vehicle in its own right. And the closing speed at, say, 100 kilometers per hour, the closing speed is 200 kilometers an hour. The crash forces imparted onto the occupants of those vehicles is actually 100 kilometer per hour crash. Some of you will be going, not sure, my physics is questioning that. There's a great Mythbusters episode on this. And Kathy, if we can send a link to that Mythbusters episode, I would really like to share that with people because we can just sort of move that whole conversation on. But basically, it's because if you have the same mass vehicles at the same speed crashing head on, the occupants of the vehicles go from 100 to 0, and it's the deceleration forces that we're most, that do the damage. And so it is a 100 kilometer per hour, equivalent of running into a wall at 100 kilometers per hour. So let's send around that episode. Now, interestingly, in safe system terms here, we draw this line here. We draw this line 30 for pedestrians, 50 for right angle, 70 for head-on crashes. And they become really important numbers for us as we assess anything out there for its alignment with safe system principles. Because we're saying, okay, humans are going to make mistakes, these crashes are going to happen. Are they going to happen within these tolerable limits? And we draw our line and we say, is it going to happen less? We're not going to encourage it happening. We're going to try and minimize it. But when it does happen, is it going to be less than these speeds in these crash types? And so we use that 30, 50, 70 as key sort of what we call threshold numbers. Kathy, any questions come up around this?
Well, Ken, were you going to come back and tell us where Usain Bolt on there? Was it 2015 Toyota?
Oh, yeah, I was.
Yeah,
so
good.
Left that one as a hanging little prize possibility.
We had some.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What are the guesses?
Well, we had some bumper, roof, bonnet, and wing mirror for some guesses. But where is?
I was not. Wing mirror is an interesting one. Give that person a prize for being very. Yeah, I suppose you. Yeah. The answer I was looking for was windshield. Actually, the windscreen. That's usually the safest place to hit your head if you're going to get struck by an older vehicle. The reason I had to say an older vehicle is if the modern vehicle is probably going to be the bonnet because it will have airbags or pop-up bonnets or the like. But some of those older vehicles certainly didn't. The windscreen was a great place to hit your head. But yes, of course, I wasn't specific enough there because I think if you hit the wing mirror, it would just flick back on itself. And somebody said bump rider.
That's okay. We've got some questions. If you can take these ones. In a head-on collision, why are we not considering the relative speed? Because the impact vector force will be in a different direction.
Yeah. Watch the Mythbusters episode because it's so good because it just answers that exact question without me having to go through all of it. And it's really that, as I talked about. Think about it as the thing that you're trying to protect and what is its acceleration and deceleration. And it's just be a different story if it was a massive truck and a little what are those little cars? Smart car, little smart car coming in at 100, big, massive truck coming in at 100, and then pushes it back. Then we're into, taking those relative speeds and transferring them onto the others, but same speed, same mass.
Excellent. I'll find that episode and pop that in Moodle. How does the does the 10% threshold equate with Vision Zero?
Another excellent question. And I suppose the answer to that is not quite. So what it does, and this is a important thing, I suppose, because why would you be 10%? Yeah, that's right. We're going for zero. We want zero death and serious injury. And we've just made a little compromise there. Well, the reason people seem to do that is a few reasons. The first one is to say that this is the point in these curves where we see the exponential increase kick up. So you get the most benefit, like it's that point where it really kicks up. So that's the first one. The second one is that, we're talking about everything. We want it below this. So we're not saying it, if you've got an area operating, a pedestrian area operating around 20, you should up it to 30. Well, no. But the other one is that there's a lot of elements to this system. We've got the vehicle improvements that are coming. We've got the people. We've got post-crash care as well. Emergency services. It's a holistic system. We're just sort of talking about one element to it. But fundamentally, also, we have to move people around this transport system. We can get zero by stopping the whole system. That's the easiest way for us to get to zero. I mean, obviously, it's the hardest way because people would not accept that. But a transport system there is there to move people and goods, and we still need sort of movement within that. So there's a few of the reasons. The other one I say is also we're on a journey here. We're so far off meeting this for where we're at that we can get us to there and then move things, adjust and move things. And we'll also have these increases in technology and in the vehicles and the like, which is going to alter these graphs anyway.
Thank you, Ken. On the other end of the curve, why does it taper off at the higher speeds? Wouldn't it keep increasing exponentially?
Yeah, it's a good question. So these are based on some stuff out of Europe that was on real world crashes, and I think it's essentially sort of like a bell curve, really. These are your outliers, and I think they're just sort of accounting for these freak weird incidents that that occur. So, like if you bell curved it, that you'd have down this end, you'd have the car that backs at 5 kilometers an hour into a pedestrian. The pedestrian falls over, hits their head, dies. And up here, you've got these miraculous things of people getting hit on the motorway at 80 kilometers per hour, flying over the bonnet and surviving. So you get these freak sort of incidents that happen. So I sort of think that's why it tapers off. But it is a good question.
Thank you. How does the probability curve behave when the vehicle impacts with a steep roadside drain and open culvert 1 to 2 on 100 kilometres an hour?
Okay, so now you're getting into some interesting questions, and I'm going to, I suppose, put a pin in that. I'm not going to answer it directly in this course. The reason is because I don't have a specific bit of research or evidence for that specific crash scenario and its forces, but we can estimate. We can sort of put it in a general category. All right, but I want to alert you to this little sort of severity scoring guidance sheet that we've developed to try to help with these sorts of questions. And this is crash speed, kilometers an hour. This is crash type down here. And you can see here we've got pedestrians being struck by heavy vehicles, cyclists by heavy vehicles, motorcyclists by heavy vehicles, and then up the top, the bottom here, we've got head-on, car versus car. We've got head-on, car versus heavy vehicle, side impact, car versus car. And you see there that sort of green being good, black being really bad. It's got some numbers to it. These will become important later in the course, that we actually need to put numbers to these. But for now, you can see there's a sort of graded color scheme. And if you were to leave the road and to hit a power pole or a tree, we're sort of seeing that it gets really bad sort of around here, around the 40, 50, 60 kilometre per hour mark of the collision speed. Now, you may wash off speed as you yaw in the roadside. Yawing is that sliding movement a car does. If you've got a table drain, it continues to bring your speed with it. But then if you hit other things like a culvert head wall or something wide like a building or the like, it's not a direct point source hazard. So like the thinner your hazard is, the more like of a really a power pole or the like, the worse it is. But the wider it is, the bigger you can spread the energy load. So you'd probably be slightly moving it down a little bit on this. And so you would make some sort of judgment calls, and you'd be talking around, maybe the 60, 70 kilometre per hour mark is sort of potentially survivable sort of things within that, maybe for somewhere in that area. Power poles, like if you wanted to design something to kill and seriously injure people on the road, power poles are pretty good design from that perspective. Obviously, pretty horrific design. I mean, the only thing would be to sharpen it, I suppose. It would be just to really hammer it home. But anyway,
you're getting very graphic there, Ken. Thank you for that image this time of the morning. There were some other questions based on, what do the curves look like when hit with heavy vehicles, and are these based on fatalities across all age groups? So I think, is this where the scoring sheet comes into it a bit more?
Yeah, and it is across all age groups, those curves were. Now, I really do need to flag that those curves are generally accepted nationally in New Zealand, Austroads level, everybody uses them. There's a lot of research currently going on into sort of recreating those, looking in more detail in the Australian and New Zealand environment, slightly newer fleets, but also reanalyzing those, and they're shifting a little bit. But for now, just take them because everybody uses them, and we'll keep an eye on the research.
Sounds good. And just one last one here. Does the probability of the red line represent the probability to occupants in both vehicles? So I think this is back on your, where it was the 10% chance.
Yeah. So that it does for head on. And I mean, it really depends on a lot of things, but in general, that is correct for head on. Not for the side impact. I mean, that's the target vehicle. And obviously car versus pedestrian, it's the pedestrian is the fatality probability.
Terrific, thank you. We'll let you carry on, and it's we've got about 55 minutes to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hurry up. We will take a 2-minute break very shortly. This diagram has been around for a long time in road safety, and it's the bane of my existence. It really annoys me, and it's not because it's wrong. It's because of the way people use it. And it comes from a thing called a crash causation study. And, there's lots of these that have happened around the world. And they always come back and they say, driver or road user error is the major cause of crashes on the road network, right? The one really famous one, I think, has 93% of crashes are the road user error. and vehicles represent a small portion, and roads represent another portion, and there's a overlap. Crash causation. The reason it really annoys me, and it really annoys me when I see somebody put this up as a diagram in their road safety presentation at the start, is because of the way it is used. Because people naturally then go, well, you're going to treat the biggest cause, aren't you? I mean, that's how we treat problems. We try and find the root cause and we try and address that. And the thing is, though, that changing the human is the hardest thing to do in the system. And because we're fighting against biology and DNA and and it's going to be extremely hard. I'm not saying it's impossible for us to get better human operation in the system. But where we go to is to say this is a system failure, and we need to alter the system when these mistakes happen to mean that it doesn't result in death and serious injury. And that could be the vehicle, it could be the road and roadside, it could be the road user. So let's look for system changes. It's really has done a major disservice in my mind, especially in a lot of sort of developing countries and the like, where it's the first thing that they show in a road safety presentation. And it basically, in a room of engineers, they show this and the engineers go, well, yeah, it doesn't matter what we do because, it's all driver issues. It's all driver behavior issues. It's not my design. But if they said we had a system failure here, and you could put that in there in my mind. This is an Ostro's diagram. I don't know why they've put these outside. They're system failures as well. Yeah, it's system failure. And if it was framed in that, systems failed here. What went wrong? Why was death and serious injury the result? Our design was wrong for the person using it. And human error comes in all sorts of forms. It's not just deliberate violation, which the media will make you believe is the road safety issue. The ice addict driving 120 through the residential streets, those sorts of very graphic sort of media stories. Well, in fact, the slips, lapses, mistakes, and unintentional violations make up the overwhelming majority of road trauma. I'm not saying that below the line here does not exist. In fact, in fatalities, it's actually sort of high 30%. Serious injuries, it's high 20%. So it's about 30% of our trauma on the road network is from those deliberate violators. But 70% is from people generally going about their business trying to generally be safe and do the right thing. But they fall asleep. They, they do like what we generally would consider a human error, not a deliberate violation. It's debatable. In fact, there's a big CASA study which delves into this in detail. That's CASA being the Centre for Automotive Safety Research out of the University of Adelaide. Anyway, I'm going to move on because I want you to do a little exercise and also have a stretch and maybe fill up your water or your coffee or the like. So I'm going to give you 3.5 minutes here, and you've got to do the following. Your poll will come up in a minute on your screen. And what it is it's just a way for you to go from the traditional approach to road safety and say, we're actually moving to the safe system approach. So you try to connect them. So going from victim blaming, and you go, okay, we've coming from this victim blaming, and we want to move to, is it an effort to create a forgiving environment, maximizing safe mobility, multifaceted system? Okay, maybe you might think it's that one. You go to there, and then maybe you'll go to there, maybe you'll go to there, whatever. So they'll come up, and you can go through this. You're not being marked on these, and it's just a way for us to consolidate a bit of that thinking about where we've been, where we want to go. And I'll hand it over to you. And I'm going to give you, as I say, 3.5 minutes, and then I'm going to race through some of the rest of the content on today's module. Now, let's pop the last guesses in. I should have said that a few of these could probably go to a number of different cells there. I took it from an Ostrodes thing from a while back, but nonetheless, it's a good little exercise to get that thinking happening. So hit submit for those who haven't. Let's now, I'm going to display that, Kathy. Almost everybody's done it. Okay, let's have a quick look here. Yep, good stuff. Actually, I'm going to, instead of just sort of having a look at where people went, instead of doing that, I'm going to stop sharing that there, and I'm going to do it just on the screen here because it's a little easier to see than the multi-choice there. But as I say, could have gone to a few. Victim blaming, well, we're trying to recognize human error and minimize its consequence. We've got a shared responsibility under the SAFE system. Emphasis on road user education and compliance, effort to create that forgiving system. It's not to say we're going to ignore user education and compliance. It's just that effort to create that forgiving system. A focus on crash reduction, enhanced focus on consequence, especially severe injury minimization. So crash reduction being, all crashes at all types. 4 pillars, action independently. To a multifaceted system with interacting elements optimized jointly as an interaction. That's a bit of a mouthful. Mobility safety balance. Maximizing safe mobility. It's a better way to say that. So I hope that sort of helped a little bit in your thinking. Don't worry if you put some to slightly other ones, because I think the thinking is a key there. And a good little quote here from Ian Cameron, who is a Western Australian. We need a paradigm shift in road safety policy to stop the road death epidemic, and we need it now. It is unrealistic to expect that education and enforcement alone will bring the needed step change. Even road users who know and follow the rules make mistakes. A safe system creates an environment in which simple mistakes will no longer kill or seriously injure people. Added serious injury. All right, quick little exercise here. Here is a bit of road. It's got a central wire road safety barrier system and a flush narrow median. It's got 2 lanes in one direction, 1 lane in the other, and it swaps. So it's what we call a 2+1 road. You know next to nothing about this road. There's a bit more of it, you can see. But this project was amazingly hard to actually make happen for a big number of reasons. It was one of the first 2+1 central barrier jobs in Victoria, in my home state, and unbelievable amount of pushback across a whole lot of areas. Let's quickly, I'll give you a second to write in some of the things that stopped this project for a long time actually being implemented. That, we said, this is, what we want to do, this is sort of the design, and then what were the pushbacks? So just write them in. Just write them in the chat. Things you think that, put some serious brakes on this project. And we'll have a quick chat about it. I'll give out a prize as well for ones that, I was going to say that that really were surprises to me that they were big issues with this project, and some of the other good ones. Right, wow, I can see them coming in here. And I'll tell you what, it's like this group has tried to implement a few of these projects in their time, because the issues coming in are good. So, I mean, not good, they are the issues that were stopping things. So we had vegetation, tree removal, cost. Yep. So those were both ones. The cost one was, in that cost benefit, not enough people killed to warrant this. Not enough lanes, so overtaking opportunities and challenges there was definitely one of them. Traffic management, access to properties and the like, yes, cost benefit. Noise to adjacent landowners, so that somebody's probably looking at the audio tactile edge line there. Property access, okay, a lot of you are onto the property access challenges. Yeah, lots of people putting that. Road corridor width, removal of a lane, noise, use of wire rope was an interesting one that somebody's put in there. Rebecca put that in. I'm going to give Rebecca a prize there because there was a number of things associated with the choice of that barrier system that caused trouble, and there was the motorcycle community that were pushing back on that. There was also the deflection of the wire rope system, because when a wire rope barrier system is struck, it deflects significantly. Deflects into the oncoming lane in this case. And that, actually, I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. I'm just going to continue to read down here. Political will is a good one. I'm going to give that to Ready to Learn Lee a prize. I mean, political will, I think community sentiments, it's a good way to sum up all issues, I think. Yeah, so the aesthetics of it. So Nikki gets a prize because along the same lines as others there in terms of that wire rope and the challenges associated with that. Reading down my list here. Quite a few people got onto the motorcyclists, but maybe you weren't quite quick enough because others had that a little bit earlier. And George is going to get a prize for that deflection one. That is not to say that these were the biggest issues. There were a couple that sort of, especially this deflection one, just blew my mind. And this is, so what I was saying is that if a vehicle was to leave their lane, hit that, you calculate the deflection, and it's going to go slightly into the oncoming lane. And so this basically stopped the project for about a year, because I said, well, you're going to deflect into the oncoming lane. And we going, well, hang on a second. It's currently got a painted white line is the only thing separating. And you're worried about it deflecting a little bit into the oncoming lane. It's like, it doesn't meet the standards. Bloody hell, okay, let's stand back and have a look at this from a logical, real world perspective. We're going to save huge amounts of lives. So, yeah, the point of this is that we're going to come up with all sorts of challenges and hurdles. And to be able to stand back and look at what is going to get us the best reduction in trauma for our community is what we need to do. And it may not be the same way that we've been operating. We're going to need to innovate. We're going to need to change what we've been doing. We're going to need to implement things that cater for people doing things wrong, like this. People falling asleep, leaving their lane. People texting, leaving their lane. We're going to try and stop this resulting in death or serious injury. We're going to try and minimize that, of course, but it's still going to happen. This one, of course, once it finally got in, somebody hit it. Like, lots of people are hitting it. Some of them would have probably hit oncoming vehicles. In fact, one of them in particular very much was going to hit an oncoming vehicle. And the people involved called up the road authority office and said, hey, I just want to talk to the person who put that barrier system in. You know, if you get that call, as many of you have, you think, oh God, here they're going to shout at me about something. Well, this one just wanted to thank the team, and wasn't me who got that call, but they managed to say, hey, do you want to talk to our comms team? And then they videoed it. Now, we put that little 2-minute video into your pack. Some of you would have seen it before, but I really encourage you to watch that. It's a great little video, and it's this road. It's this, not this exact incident. That was another just probably nuisance hit, but it was it's a really good demonstration of safe system in action. Safe system in action because somebody made a mistake. Somebody fell asleep. They left their lane. They hit the barrier instead of the vehicle that they would have hit. And to me, that's the system just stepping in. It's still a crash, but it doesn't result in death or serious injury. If the barrier wasn't there, we'd probably be saying, why would you drive when you were that tired? Yeah, and say, you can't do that. Let's do another education campaign on not, fatigue driving. But this is a system response. Okay, I'll move through things a little bit quicker now, cover off a bit of content. So,
sorry, can we just jump in with a question? Might not be a quick question, but we've had a few around motorcyclists. What is the evidence of risk to motorcyclists with wire rope barrier system versus other barrier systems? Versus other systems?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've got a module on motorcycle safety later on, so I want to talk about that for about 10 minutes. I don't have 10 minutes in this module to talk about it, so I will talk about it later on.
Perfect, thank you.
So what I want to do is just run through a few of those elements that you've got. I want to start with the road users themselves. How do we get safer road users? How do we get safe road users? We're going to get safer road users. We're not going to get safe road users overall. But we know that education, encouragement, enforcement, and the licensing system and the entry into the system are good ways of getting improvements. We know that little humans are really great at absorbing our road safety messages and taking them on and feeding them up to their parents as well, so we can get some great wins. We need to continue to invest in the culture of safety, road safety, that we can embed in our kids. Young drivers, particularly at risk, new drivers, and that's a combination of the fact that they are right at a stage in their life where their biological stuff is telling them to take risk, especially if they're male, and a lot of exciting things going on in life. Really, for young drivers, it's all about providing them with a safe system in which to operate. You want to give them the time behind the wheel in the open road network, not at a racetrack or anything like that. You don't need them to do an advanced driver training course. In fact, that will make them more likely to be killed or seriously injured, because if they know how to get out of high-speed skids and the like, they will actually start to take more risks because they believe they can get out of it. Really well researched and evidence one around the world there. Advanced driver training, no good. There's some defensive driver training courses that provide hope, but they're very much done on the open road and in classrooms. Also, just in trying to ensure the highest safety features in the vehicle, absolutely possible. Another one here in the education, in talking to the community about road safety messages, is not to talk to individuals about their risk of being killed or seriously injured, because they switch off and they don't believe you. Well, and this to me is a really elegant campaign, because it's not targeting the individual's behaviour. Like not saying that if you text and drive, you will be killed or you will be involved in a crash, because this guy won't believe you. He'll go, yeah, not me. I mean, I only text and drive when it's safe, and I've been doing it for years and I've not crashed, so I don't believe that. Yeah, that's important for other people, but not me. But if you say you text and drive, your kids are going to text and drive. And they're like, okay, I better not text and drive when, at least when the kids are in the car. So we're finding things that people actually believe. And to a degree, if we were to say, if you text and drive, you're more likely to be involved in a crash. And this guy goes, I don't really believe you. You're not that wrong. I mean, the odds are so tiny of being involved in a crash if you text and drive. But that's not what we're doing. We are talking about the collective. We say texting and driving is a significant cause of death and serious injury on our road network. True. But at an individual level, the risk is minuscule. And so what we're doing is actually talking at an individual as though they are a collective, and they just do not buy it. And it's the same with speed. And we say, oh, we're reducing the speed for your safety. And they're like, what? I've been driving this road for 40 years and I've never had an incident. And now you're making me drive slower. No, well, we're not doing it for their safety. We're doing it for the community's safety. And so find different levers to talk to your community rather than personal risk. So what works? A whole school approach rather than just, only 1 year. Education combined with other activities like enforcement, especially. Support for community education, really passionate community groups wanting to improve road safety. We need to support them with evidence bases. And we see community groups doing things like taking their kids through the morgue or the trauma wards and saying, if you don't drive safely, this is what will happen to you. There's so much evidence to say that doesn't work. But it kind of is logical for people who haven't actually looked at the research and evidence. Advanced driver training is the other one. Absolutely. We see groups getting their own hard-earned money and giving it to advanced driver training to get their youth to go through advanced driver training. And we show them the evidence. Like, you are actually making them higher risk of being killed or seriously injured by doing that. And that's licensing systems are great. Graduate the at-risk drivers into the system. Put lots of restrictions on them early and then ease them off. And target those motivated groups, parents being the most motivated. And I'll move through that. So what doesn't work? I think I've talked about these. Fear tactics, I haven't really talked about. Trying to scare people into driving safely really actually only works at the people who need it least. The people who are going to take more risks out there and the like are not impacted by these. Skill-based driver training, we've talked about, that's the advanced driver training stuff, doesn't work. One-off events, driver simulations, membership in car racing clubs, and information-only approaches. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a place for some of these, but the place is not at changing a driver's particular behaviour. The place is setting a platform for legislative change or the like. And if you're going to bring in a new, blood alcohol content or something like that, you can utilise some of these as levers to be able to then go and do that. But learner drivers, and don't worry about the specifics of this, but learner drivers with a supervising driver are far and away our safest driver. As soon as they're out there on their own, it's high risk and it drops down over time. Now, these are pure numbers of crashes in one jurisdiction, so it doesn't quite correlate because you'd want to do this by crashes per 100 million VKTs or something like that, vehicle kilometres travelled, that is, so you get a like-for-like comparison. But this sort of shows you that skill is not the issue, is it? I mean, they have no skill. They've got a little bit more skill, but their way, they've got lots more skill. So just, have a think about that as well. Some really good encouraging things, incentivizing campaigns and programs. There's a bit of evidence to show they work. So if you are willing to pay people to drive safely, you can get some road safety societal benefit from that. And that's doing things like maybe if they have no demerit points or no, speeding fines or something in their probationary period, they get a full free license. That's been trialled around the world and shown to be quite successful. Advertising of specific behaviours is the key. An ad that just says drive safely really doesn't do anything. But if you can be very specific and say, take a break every 2 hours, now we're onto something. Very hard to measure the success of campaigns and the like to try to do behavioural change. But what they look for is recall And recalls basically, can people remember messages, and then they can try and relate that. Interestingly, comedy is quite effective in recall, especially at young males, and there's some really great ads available that try to integrate some of that comedy into it. And again, we've put, I think, 3 or 4 of those into your memory stick just for, some ideas. Some of them are New Zealand. In fact, New Zealand does it best. Like some of the best ads, road safety ads, have started in New Zealand. And we're trying to change that culture, talking about a system. And then we see different ads. Here's actually another New Zealand ad, which isn't funny. It's not a comedy ad. It's a very serious ad. But it's talking about other people make mistakes. The South Australians stole it from you, by the way. Other people make mistakes. Not trying to say, hey, you will be killed, but other people are going to stuff things up. And we go a little slower, everybody's going to come out of it better. Human tolerance to physical force. This is Graham. Graham is a life-size sculpture designed by a trauma surgeon and a crash reconstruction expert, and an artist, obviously, and to say, this is what you need to look like to survive the forces on our road. And you can actually go and see Graham. Scarily looks like a human. And it's a sort of long-term game to try to get the youth to question why you would need to look like this to survive on our road. Why are there these forces that are there? And the next one we've got here is enforcement. And the police are very good at saying, there's a platform for our system to work, and we will help try to support that platform, but we're not the only thing. But strategic enforcement efforts work really well. Specific deterrence is basically when you've been fined for something, or somebody's been fined for something, they don't do it again. General deterrence is that overall overarching thing of, I could be fined at any time, anywhere, so I'll generally act better. Visual presence really helps with that general deterrence. And there's a thing, obviously, a lot of you will know, called the halo effect, and it's basically after seeing police or a camera site or the like, there's a halo of effect on behaviour, which is actually about 500 metres in each direction. Kathy, questions, comments?
Yes, thank you, Ken. Just a question about fear tactics you talked about earlier. A lot of our TV ads do seem to work on the fear aspect. Why is this happening?
So again, like, there's been a big culture shift. The 1990s was just like shock and awe, like scare the absolute hell out of the public. Now, most agencies moved away from that over time, and most agencies nowadays, you won't see a huge amount of shock and awe. The reason it may still occur occasionally is usually around, as I said, that legislative platform to justify why interventions are happening. People, won't be happy with it, but they'll be thinking, okay, that's pretty bad. Not likely that they're trying to target a particular behavioural change initiative as a result of it. But there's still, people who either haven't, worked that out, or there's been a political decision made against evidence or something like that. What I've done is put a series of fact sheets, or actually one particular fact sheet, into your memory stick and on Moodle that has the research and evidence behind these statements that are being made. Because, don't just believe what I'm saying. Have a look at some of the research and evidence yourself. It's summarized really beautifully in those fact sheets, and points to really high quality research.
Ready to Learn Lee has also come through with a comment, ghost chips, which I think is a New Zealand ad around using some humour and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, some of the New Zealand ones, the one in your memory stick, to try and influence texting and driving, I think is absolute beauty. Okay, Speed cameras work well. Part of the enforcement, the bigger area you can force, like with things like point-to-point cameras, where you take a photo of the number plate and then another photo 10 kilometres down the road, and measure the average speed there. You're on to bigger winners, bigger areas, bigger halo effects. But the vehicles themselves can do wonderful jobs in enforcement. I mean, the alcohol interlocks have been around for quite a while, and to me that they are a really wonderful way to address road safety. That's where a device is fitted in the car of a recidivist drink driver, somebody who just cannot help themselves and they continue to do it. And it means they have to blow into it, and they have to be 0-0, and the car starts and then they drive. It'll beep randomly at times, and then they have 5 minutes to blow into it again. That was generation 2, after we learned that some people get other people to blow into it and then they drive off intoxicated. The reason it's really great solution is because it's targeting the specific behavior. If we were to, give this person a massive fine, take their car off them, take their license off them, inevitably what we find is that we will spiral their life further out of control. They can't get to their job, they can't pick up the kids, or they just flaunt all of that and they continue to just rack up fines and then get locked up. It just, if you can address that specific issue, it's a much better way to do things. Then there's nothing technology-wise stopping us doing it with speed. I mean, you can get cars with, speed interlocks in them. We could do that at a societal level. No worries from the technology. It's the political will. Do we have that political will? And somebody sort of put that into the little exercise we did before about the politics. It's such a holding us back, and how do we get that to change? There you go. I think that's like 19 years ago. I had a device in my Vic Roads car that told me the speed limit, beeped at me if I went over the speed limit, and it was, and it could have controlled the car if we'd wanted it to. Technology is not our issue. The vehicles themselves are, there's real hope in the vehicles, and the technology is sort of taking off quite well. We know that things like ANCAP show us that we can get some public desire for safety. We used to think you could only get people to buy cars by their colour and the number of cup holders and how fast they could go. Well, actually, no. We can get people to buy it on safety as well. That's great proof of that. The vehicle technology continues to become more and more amazing. But even 5-star vehicles are quite limited. So this is the 5-star ANCAP safety rated pole test, where you run the car into a pole at a certain speed, and the occupant has to not have level 3 serious injuries, which is basically an acquired brain injury, and really going to be lifelong debilitating, or killed. What is the speed that the ANCAP test for side impact with pole happens? Any guesses there? Prize for the person who can guess it correctly. And we'll take the current one. It got increased recently. So what speed? We're talking 100 kilometers an hour, side impact, 80, 5. All right, I'm going to give it to Adam to keep us moving along. Adam guessed 30. It's 32 kilometers per hour. So if you get a 5-star vehicle, it is only designed to protect the occupant from lifelong debilitating head injury, side impact with a pole at 32 kilometers per hour or below. Well, some of them will have actually gone higher than that, but that's 5 stars. So, we've still got a long way to go considering the speeds we drive around our road network there. Pedestrian protection, we talked about this. Now it's part of ANCAP, hitting the bonnet. Your bonnet will pop up a lot of the time. Wonderful features. You won't know that, but if you've got a relatively new car and you go out and you hit a pedestrian, your bonnet's going to pop up and act like a little cushion, or it might even have an airbag that pops out. Like my car certainly has an airbag when I hit pedestrians, which of course I'm not. I hope I'm not going to do. Actually, my vehicle should stop before the pedestrian, or at least slow down a lot, because it's got sensors in it. Which sort of brings you to the point of at what point are we going to see enough of the vehicle fleet looking like this with no steering because it's driving itself? Well, depends who you ask, but really the answer is a long, long time away. Yes, we'll start to get little bits and pieces of autonomy coming in more and more. And for those who are sort of in this game, they know there's 5 levels of autonomy. This is either a level 4 or a level 5 autonomous vehicle. A level 4 would be if this was restricted to certain roads. A level 5 would be that this can go anywhere, the same as you can when you drive. We are so far from being able to get to a level 5. We have little sort of level 4s in trial modes. But we've got to roll over a whole fleet, even if we had the technology, which we're many years away. So what we know is that we can't just sit back as people managing the road network and the infrastructure and the like and say, oh, well, the vehicles are going to do the job. Like, why bother? We need to alter the environment, and they need to keep pushing at this. What you do actually in a safe system assessment is you do a bit of thinking about autonomous vehicles or vehicles with different safety features. So level 2 vehicles, 3 vehicles, and say, are we building something here that can be used by these vehicles or that can take advantage of the safety features that are in vehicles coming off the production line now or in the next 10 years or so? And so can the road be read by the vehicle? And there's a really great report. It's called Roads That Cars Can Read, and there's a series of them that tell you how to design and manage a road system for a vehicle like this, vehicle that is going to read the road. And we do a little bit of that thinking in a safe system assessment, and certainly there for us to do more and more in the future as we get more information around this. And these vehicles, it's not only about them stopping before they hit pedestrians or other vehicles, like these ones are automatically stopping. Sometimes they will hit the other vehicle or the pedestrian or the like, but they've done braking beforehand, so it brings it within our tolerable limits as much as we can. And speed. Speed is so critical to the safe system. And I'll give you a little reminder here of some of your basics on speed, and I'm going to do it very quickly. Speed of collision. So let's say we're traveling at 60 kilometers an hour and there's an object something that is 45 meters away, and we react. So we see it, we lift our foot up and we hit the brake. And then there's the physics of the braking. If you increase the speed by let's go 5 kilometers per hour, 65. You hit it at 32 kilometers per hour. 32. You only increase it by 5 kilometers an hour, but the impact speed is at 32 kilometers per hour. It is not a linear relationship. That's the key. So small increases in speed play out as really big changes in force of impact. And there's a few other things that sort of embed in that. We saw that injury is actually exponential after certain points. So small increases in speed, the injury force, and that's just the physics and the biomechanical tolerance issues. And you see here that it's actually a 4th power relationship for fatal crashes and a 3rd power relationship for serious injuries. And so if you're not a person who plays with power relationships and formulas and the like, that's basically to say small changes magnify as really big changes for the more severe crashes. So if you can get a small reduction in speed, it will come through as a really big reduction in death and serious injury. Speed is such a controversial topic, though, and New Zealand's in the thick of it, sometimes leading the world, sometimes lagging behind. But it's like all the jurisdictions out there are facing challenges. Speed limits are one part of the thing, and the public's sort of very divided on this. There's some research done on public opinion on lower speed limits will reduce crashes on the road. About half the public saying, yeah, don't believe that. And females much smarter than males there, more believe that because, well, and the reason I say smarter is because there's so much evidence around the world to show that that absolutely is the case. But we need to try to convince the public on that. Public's a bit more into the idea that the severity will be reduced. Yeah? Bit of understanding of physics, basic physics. Anyway, just a bit of stuff in your notes. We talked about speed, like this is an interesting diagram, and I've been rewriting the Austra's Guide to Speed Management, which will come out, or speed limits and speed management. But I popped this diagram in, which is out of Sweden. Basically shows that you can get a safe system with whatever you've got in terms of vehicles, roads, roadsides, road users, as long as you filter it through an appropriate speed. But we want to achieve these safe speeds through infrastructure and or speed limits, right? Infrastructure is usually the most effective way of reducing speed, and speed limits certainly important and can do some wonderful things. But if you can alter the infrastructure to make people drive slower, ride slower, you're in a better situation. Explaining why a speed limit is in place helps with acceptance and compliance, and protecting vulnerable road users is generally well accepted, generally. Variable speed limits, I think, are a wonderful gateway. No, I don't mean it like gateway like we would in an infrastructure sense, but a way for us to step into lowering speed limits by targeting at specific times of day. And so you can alter speeds during different risk times. It sort of can help you sort of step into that space with your community. All right, in my last 5 minutes here, I just want to talk briefly about risk, and then there might be some questions that have come up. But risk, traditionally, we've said, is likelihood times consequence. I mean, that's your international definition of risk. And it's not just road safety risk. It's everything: financial risk, environmental risk, health risk. It's what is the chance said event will happen, and then how bad is it going to be when it does happen? What's the chance of a recession? So what is the likelihood we're going to go into a recession? And then how bad is that recession going to be when we do go into it? What's the chance of the crash? And then how bad is the crash going to be when it does happen? Under the safe system assessment framework, we actually extract the likelihood and we split it into the exposure to crashes, and then the chance of the crash, and then the consequence. The exposure just being the number of people exposed to that risk. So that could be the number of pedestrians, number of cyclists, number of motorcyclists, number of car drivers or car passengers. So when we look at those three elements, we've got exposure. And the way we can alter exposure is to close off things. So this one example is a level crossing, the big mound of dirt there, and basically stopped people entering that conflict point. Sure, they're going to have to go around to access where they need to go through another area, but you'd hope that that is a lower risk area. And at that particular site, there is no exposure to that crashes because nobody can get to that crash point. Likewise, if you can take a vulnerable road user like cyclists, for example, and take them off the ability to crash with vehicles and put them on their own dedicated area, they are not exposed to the vehicle and the vehicle crash there. Sure, they might be exposed to bike crashes or bike to pedestrian crashes, but not that bike to vehicle crash. Likelihood, a whole lot of things that we can think about in likelihood within the infrastructure we've got. All of those traditional things we've done, line marking, signage, delineation, sealed shoulders, wide center lines, all these things are reducing the chance that somebody will crash. Good surface conditions. Traffic signals. They reduce the chance that somebody crashes. None of these things are impacting how bad the crashes are going to be when they do occur. They're just trying to stop them happening in the first place. And it's a great thing to do. But what we need to do under the SAFE system is say, we're going to do the best job we can stopping these crashes happening. But some of them are still going to happen. And we need to start really talking about this one. How bad are they going to be? And ways that we can reduce the severity of those crashes is to do things to reduce speeds at conflict points. So like raised platforms, slowing people down at the conflict area. Or barrier systems, a classic severity reducing technique. The crash still happens because they leave the road, they hit the barrier, they slide along the barrier, they wash off their energy over time. We've had a crash. These two have come into play. But this one now, the severity is being reduced. I don't think we'll do that quiz directly because I want to see if there's any questions, and we've only got 2 minutes or so to go.
Excellent. Thank you, Ken. Lots to think about. We don't have any questions, but now is your chance to type them in our last couple of minutes, and perhaps I'll just show people where the quiz is.
Please. Yeah. So I did, as Kathy brings that up, I ran through that last stuff a little bit quickly, and it's recorded, so you could watch it again if you want. There's lots of material in your memory stick, and Kathy will point you to this, the fact sheets, the other resources. So you got lots to do. And of course, I'm always happy, shoot me an email, or we can organize a meeting if you want to chat about some of these specifics a bit more. So there's the references and documents and resources folder in middle. Those fact sheets are actually different fact sheets. Kathy, they're the scoring fact sheets. The fact sheet I'm talking about is what doesn't work for young road users and why. Wonderful fact sheet in there. We'll get to those other fact sheets module 3.
Sorry, I was jumping ahead.
Yep, that's all right. So lots of cool resources in there. And then here we are in module 1. You find that quiz, you click on it. Oh, there's a Mythbusters episode in there as well. Beautiful. And then you have a crack at the quiz. Now, I suggest you have a go at it. You see how you go. If you don't do so well and you're confused about why you didn't do so well, or you really don't get it, get in contact with us. If you go, oh, I see where I stuffed up, have another go at it, right? You don't lose marks for multiple goes. And yeah, so there it is there. Now, so I think somebody's asking about enrollment here. So you should have got an email from what? Safe System Solutions? Could have gone in your junk folder?
Yep. If you're having any trouble there, just send me an email and I'll set you up again. Purchasing a vehicle, go to the Right Car website. Yeah, good.
Right Car website. So I think that would be one that talks about the safety features of the vehicles. It's good stuff.
We've also got some questions which I think you're gonna delve into, because the next session is all about exposure, severity, and likelihood, isn't it, Ken?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The rest of the course is about that.
Okay. All right. So there are some follow-up questions there. And there's also a follow-up question about the crash risk curves as well. So we might hold those off. So I've already noted down a couple of motorcycle ones as well, and we'll get into them in our next session. So thank you, Ken, and thanks everyone for your participation. And we look forward to seeing you again Friday morning.
Yeah, another awesome New Zealand group. Great interaction. Loved it. Looking forward to seeing you on Friday.
Thank you.
Bye.